2, 1.
Good evening. My name's Tom Duplinksy. I'm the high school counselor, if you don't know me. And what we're going to try to do with this meeting is get the information out on what is called CCP, or College Credit Plus, which is a program for high school students from actually middle school to high school, grades 7 through 12, to possibly get college credits. My format's going to cover 3 things. I want to try to get as much information to you on CCP, try to answer your questions, and then if it is something that the student is going to pursue, give you the directions as to how you go about applying for the CCP. My time goal is for us to complete between 7 and 7:30. There's a lot of information here. I'll try to be as quick and thorough as possible, but at the same time, we could go on, and I don't want to do that to you. If at any point during the presentation you are comfortable with what you heard, feel free to sign off. It's not like you have to stay here the whole time with me if you're satisfied with the information you received. You should have received 8 pages that were attached to the email that I sent your son or daughter. If you did not receive these pages, they're also available at the Liberty Union website. Click to high school on the left side, and right in the middle of that page, you'll see in bold print CCP meeting, and all the papers are attached there. Page 1 is my attempt to keep this organized under an agenda. I cannot say I'll stick to it 100%, but hopefully it'll keep us in a flow chart, so to speak. Page 2 is called College Credit Plus Information Page. That's the page I'll focus on the most. It's a summary of the points the state of Ohio says I do have to make sure and present to you. Page 3 is called the Acknowledgement and Intent Form. This is a page that you do need to submit with a parent signature and a student signature if there is an intention to pursue CCP programs. It doesn't mean you have to. It just acknowledges that you went through the meeting, you have an understanding of the program, and you think you want to pursue it. And I'll come back to that when we get to page 3. Page 4, 5, and 6 will be information on eligibility for the student. Is he or she eligible to participate? How they grade, so to speak. And then lastly, the application process. I may refer to these pages from time to time, and as a result, you may see me flipping back and forth. I want to acknowledge Mr. Dirk Christ, who's sitting here with me from the LU Technology Department, serving 2 factors for me. One, if I have a computer problem, and then number 2, he'll monitor the chat room. So if you have a question, feel free to submit it. And what I'm going to do is I will stop after maybe every 4 or 5 points, ask Dirk if there are any questions, and then I'll address the questions. Then I'll go on another 4 or 5 points and repeat that procedure. Also, we'll take questions at the end of the program. So if you look at page 3, page 2, the College Credit Plus information page. What I'm going to do is try to emphasize the advantages, disadvantages, and risks if a student participates in the College Credit Plus program. CCP is what I'll refer to it as all the time, but you can see there what it stands for. What you're basically doing, if you are a CCP student, you are completing courses through a college for both high school and college credit. The high school credit's going towards your high school graduation, the college credit's going towards being a college student. Point 1, acceptance is the decision of the college or university. I can guide you or the student and direct them into the application process, but in the end, it is the college decision. Point 2, dropping a college course. It's very important that the student realizes that he or she must drop the course by the 15th day of the class. This is a college policy, not a high school policy. The reason it is very important is if a student drops after that date, that student could be held financially responsible, and Liberty Union would be collecting from you the cost of the course. One of the things I should emphasize to you that I should have said earlier, with the CCP program, the student is going to college at the expense of Liberty Union schools. Cost for you is very, very minimal. Books, tuition of the program, and now even with computer programs being used in certain classes, Liberty Union picks up the expense of that through the state of Ohio. Point 3, course failure or no credit awarded. Same procedure. If a student fails a course or gets an incomplete or does not get credit for the course, the student can be held responsible for paying for that course, just like dropping after the drop date. I want to emphasize point 4, books are the property of Liberty Union High School. Since we pay for the books, we're loaning them to the student. So what we ask the student to do, if they're taking a course that has been taken numerous times previous by some of our students, we ask the student to check in the library to see first if we have that book on file. If we do not, then obviously we will purchase the book for the student. We will not say, too bad, we don't have it. We will make the necessary purchases if we have to. Point 5, process of granting credit. Any college course that is worth 3 or more college semester hours is 1 high school credit. All right? Very important that you realize that, because you are using these courses both toward your high school graduation and receiving college credits. And then the scale goes down. If it's a 2-semester college class, then it's worth 0.667 high school credits. So again, tying that into you're trying to complete both high school and college. A student is permitted to take 30 college hours a year for a total of 120 credits. What the state is basically saying is that's what a full-time student would graduate with. They are not saying that every high school student that does this is going to get a college degree, but they use that as the focal point, 30 times 4 for 120. It's important that you realize this. The reverse is 1 high school credit equals 3 college credits when I'm scheduling a student. So if a student has 3 high school courses, he can only take 21 college credit hours. A student with 5 high school credits can only take 15 college credit hours because of the reverse scale, and that's what the state does for funding. And that's a little bit confusing, so I always ask the student who's doing CCP, before you make any commitments, meet with me first to make sure we're online with that, and of course also to make sure we're online for graduation. I'll stop there and ask Dirk if there are any questions. Okay, I'll move on to point 6. The impact on student graduation and diploma. These questions always come up from students as they begin in CCP. CCP courses can be used for required courses. For example, a student at OUL taking an English course as a junior, for example, can use that course for his or her junior English. If that student wants to take a second English course, he or she can use that English course for the senior English. These courses can be used for required courses. And I mention English because the state of Ohio does permit speech courses or communication courses to also count as English credit. CCP courses can be used in the student's total high school credit count. At this time, we require 22 credits to graduate. A student in CCP can have a combination of high school credits, the college credits, whatever it takes to hit that magic number of 22. Most CCP students graduate with anywhere from 28 to 30 high school credits because they're taking high school courses plus trying to take the college courses as much as they can. You can use the CCP courses to meet the diploma with honors. Students always ask that. For example, a requirement is 4 credits of math. If a CCP student is taking Algebra 1 with us and Geometry with us, and then they take 2 CCP courses that we offer at the high school, College Statistics and College Algebra, he or she has met those 4 credit hours towards the honors diploma. Or like, for example, we'll have students that have taken 2 years of Spanish with us, and they may pick up the 3rd year of Spanish at OUL. There is no problem with that, and it's always a concern for the student because most students that are pursuing these programs or these classes are usually the kind of students that want the diploma with honor. Identification of the course on your transcript. I try as much as possible to identify it as either OUL or Zane State College or Columbus State Community College because we've had some students go there. I try as much as possible to have it identified that way on the high school transcript so when the student pursues his or her college career after high school, it stands out that he or she did complete CCP courses. I'll tend to refer to OUL and Zane State College, and I'll get more into the explanation of that. Number one, most of our kids who go off high school campus and go to a college campus go to OUL because of the convenience. It's 10 or 15 minutes away, that's great. I refer to Zane State College because we actually offer Zane State College classes in the high school, so students do not even have to leave the building to take some College Credit Plus program classes. The effect of the grade and the credit value of the course on the student. The student must realize this impacts graduation, this impacts GPA, and this impacts class rank. That's very important that they realize that. When I put these grades on a high school transcript, I have to put the grade that was given to me by the college. And if a student doesn't do as well as he or she usually does in a class, that's a tough thing to swallow sometimes. And go back up to that one where I was talking about if you have a failure or an incomplete. It's a college course, but it's going on your high school transcript, so that will affect your high school GPA and class rank. Athletic eligibility. If your son or daughter is in athletics, CCP courses can be used towards athletic eligibility. Now, the state of Ohio allows us to do this. One CCP course counts twice for eligibility. That does not mean the student gets 2 credits for it. It just means that when I'm counting classes and a student is supposed to be in at least 5 credits for athletic eligibility, if he or she has 3 CCP courses that semester, that counts as 6 towards the athletic eligibility. And the state does that to help the student out because of travel from high school to college if they're going to the OUL campus, for example, and also the demand of these courses takes them to the library and a lot more on their own reading and work and things of that nature. The student is a college student. I have to emphasize that. If a student is taking Zane State College classes with us, Mrs. Whitaker teaches our math classes here. She has college statistics followed by college algebra, then the next year college pre-calculus followed by college calculus. When that student completes those courses, they're completing them as a college student as well as a high school student. So that student will actually have 2 transcripts. The transcript that I generate, which is the Liberty Union High School transcript, and the transcript that the college generates, which could be Zane State College, which could be OUL, could be Columbus State. We have a high number of students that have both Zane State College transcripts and OUL transcripts because they're taking courses from both colleges. So I do want to emphasize that the student is a college student. He or she is also a high school student, but within that, the framework of those classes, they're considered college. A lot of people think that, oh, they set classes aside for the high school students. No, they don't. The high school students, if they go to OUL, whatever the case may be, are in classes with all the other college students, which could be you or I, for example. I'll stop there for a minute to see if there are any questions. Okay, I'll move on. Number 10, FERPA, stands for the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. If you go to the very last 2 pages of the information I had on the email, you'll see 2 forms. One form is an OUL form, and one form is a Zane State College form, and I wrote sample on the top of both so you would not try to use them. The federal government says your son or daughter is at college. You have no right to just call the professor or call the college and say, how's my son doing in history? How's my daughter doing in English? The answer is, I can't tell you, because they're a college student, they have privacy. So if you want to be able to inquire about your son or daughter's grade and work and things of that nature in that class, you need to complete one form for each individual college your son or daughter might participate in. For example, with Mrs. Whitaker's pre-cal, she does not even put the grades on progress book. The grades are not seen unless the student comes up and asks her what's my grade, or if the parent completed one of these forms so she has permission to release it. Otherwise, not until the end of the grading period, till the end of the semester when the course is completed. So this is very important because we had a couple questions on this specifically here this year where parents were upset. And again, it comes down to you have to complete these pages for each individual college. Number 11, there are possible scheduling conflicts. I tell the student, if you're going to do this, before you commit, you come and see me, because we have to make sure that it fits what you're doing in high school. I will not let a student miss a graduation requirement because he or she is taking a college class. That serves no purpose. At the same time, I have to be certain that there's a lot of time for transportation to and from if the student decides to go to OUL. Or as I mentioned, Columbus State, that's even a tougher drive. So I won't put a student in a bind of saying, oh, you can be at OUL in 10 minutes. And that also goes back to why the state allows one class to equal 2 for athletic eligibility, because they are also concerned about that going back and forth for some students. So the scheduling conflicts are smoothed over between the student, myself, and my contact at the college. Then once we are all certain that it's going to work, that's when the submission takes place. That's when we say, this is your schedule. And our teachers are very good about if a person has to change the second semester from a first period class to a sixth period class so they can pick up another college class. They're very cooperative about allowing our students to do that. So we actually deal with scheduling conflicts per semester. Transportation is your responsibility. If you're taking classes strictly at the high school through Zane State College, transportation isn't an issue at all. But obviously, if the student is going to be taking classes at OUL, transportation does become an issue, and we just couldn't run buses back and forth. We had 38 students take classes the first semester here that just ended in December. 38 students taking classes at OUL at various times. Some start there and finish with us. Some start with us and finish at OUL, and some do not come into the high school at all. They're strictly at OUL. So you could understand we just could not transport daily all the different students. Number 14 to me is very important, academic and social responsibility. A student has to decide, is this right for me? I've been dealing with this program for 20 plus years, clear back when it was called post-secondary enrollment options, and then it evolved into what they now call the CCP program. I've seen valedictorians participate with these classes. I've seen valedictorians say, I'd rather stay in the high school and take my high school courses. So it's a very strong individual personal decision with obviously your input and then anything the student would want to receive from me. So it's a strong academic and social responsibility. The social responsibility ties into a lot of things. For example, a student could have college classes Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Thursday, and not have classes on Friday. That's a lot of free time that he or she may not be used to. That's the social responsibility of I've got to be mature enough to handle the fact that I do not have first period, second period, third period because of doing these college classes. Another social responsibility is the fact that your high school son or daughter could be in a class, for example, somebody my age going back to school, or the very traditional age college student of 18, 19, 20. So there's a lot of social responsibility tied into that statement. Number 15, understanding, is this right for me? And again, the student, is this right for me? And I'll stop there for a minute. Are there any questions? Okay, I'll move on then. If you look to the next page that I said, page 3, the acknowledgement and intent form. This ties in to these 15 points that I covered on the first sheet here that I went over, that the state of Ohio says I now have to issue you an acknowledgement form. I need the student's name at the top and the parent's name of who is going to sign it. And then it states, I/we acknowledge receiving CCP information through Liberty Union High School counselor, me, Tom Duplinksy, and we understand if additional questions need to be addressed, I or we can contact him at the high school guidance office. And there is my phone number and my email address. I don't expect you to walk out of here understanding everything about this program. I'll be driving home this evening and say, oh man, I should have mentioned this or I should have mentioned that. There is so much involved with this program. What I'm trying to do is whet your appetite for you to see if this is something for me, the student, or the parent, if this is something for your son or daughter. Letter A, the intent of the college you want to do this with. Do you want to do this at OUL? Do you want to do it at OSU New York? Do you want to do it at Columbus State Community College? That's the intent. Letter B is, are you one of those students that's only going to want to take the classes we offer through Zane State College? Check yes. And letter C is, if you're one of the students or the parent of one of the students who wants to take classes on a college campus plus the Zane State College classes. In that case, fill out A and C, all right, so that I understand that. And let me emphasize that a lot of our students, and this is really picked up here this year, this is, I think, the 3rd or 4th year of our affiliation with Zane State College. We're having more and more students now actually taking online college classes through Zane State College. You could walk into our high school, but I hate to say it, but you can't right now. That's a whole nother story that I hope we all can't wait to get through. But you'll see early in the morning 4 or 5 students sitting in the cafeteria working on a computer. And they are particular students who are taking some online college classes. So they come to the high school, it's nice and quiet, and they're working on their online college class. So there's a number of things you can do within the framework of Zane State College with us or any of the college campuses. Down there at the bottom, I need the student's signature, the date that it was signed, and the parent's signature. And as you can see in bold print, return this to me in the guidance office by May 1st, 2021. You keep the first page that I summarized for your records. Now, this is not a contract. A student can decide, I'm not going to do this. A lot of times, a 9th or 10th grader will go through the meeting and then say, I want to wait till my junior or senior year. That's fine. What this is just doing what I read up top. You're acknowledging that we are attempting to get information to you, and then you are letting me know where you think you want to participate in terms of the College Credit Plus program. Are there any questions on the form, Dirk?
No.
Okay. Now if we could look at pages 4, 5, and 6 of the packet that was sent to you through the email. The state has adjusted eligibility a little bit because it's difficult with trying to do all kind of testing. A student is eligible to participate in a College Credit Plus program if he or she has an unweighted GPA of a 3.0 or higher. For example, we put weighted grades on AP courses. We put weighted grades on certain CCP courses. Wouldn't affect a person applying for this yet unless they took an AP course. And I make that adjustment as we submit the GPA. There's a possibility that the college will want to look at what is called college readiness scores on the ACT or the SAT. And then the third factor is the school could request that the student take a placement test, which is called the AccuPlacer. Now, I regret to tell you this, but the first couple years of doing this program before we had the pandemic, I used to be able to administer the AccuPlacer test for Zane State College. And I would just have the 50, 60 kids or whatever it might be in the cafeteria. I'd administer the test. Zane State would be in touch with me via telephone. The first year they actually sent somebody out to make sure we were doing it properly. But they will not do that until we're through the pandemic. So if a college requests an AccuPlacer or placement test, that arrangement would have to be made with the specific college. For example, last spring we had some students that went to Zanesville, where Zane State College is, and took their placement test. And I think last year the cost for them was $10 a test. When it was given here, which was nice, since we were doing it as a large group, they did not charge the students for that. But again, I can't work around that because they're obviously dealing with the fear of the pandemic as we are. I already mentioned number 2, the intent to participate form, but I want to emphasize that, getting that back to me. Pass-fail grading. The state of Ohio wants it emphasized. If a course is graded A, B, C, D, F, then your son or daughter has to be graded A, B, C, D, F. The only exceptions, if it's a college course that is graded pass-fail, or if the COVID-19 disruption occurs and the college decides to offer a pass-fail option to all the students in that course. But they cannot let just one say, I want pass-fail, and not offer it to the other. This is an option, and this becomes the student's choice or decision. I urge the student to talk to the college advisor. I didn't mention that, but I'm the high school advisor for the student that is going to do CCP, but he or she will also have an advisor through the college. If they're taking the classes here with us, math program would be Mrs. Whitaker. The business program, Mr. Day teaches 2 business classes. They would be your academic advisor for Zane State College here in the high school. If you're taking classes at OUL, OUL would make sure that the student has an advisor assigned. I already mentioned the withdrawal, so I'm not going to repeat that. That's the formal writing of how the state words it. And I hate to stress it, but I don't want to see anybody spend money they do not have to. Last year we had a few students that either failed a course or didn't get credit for it or dropped it after the due date. And I think for OUL, which is OU, for Ohio University, I think it was $166 a credit hour. So if a student would do that with 1 or 2 classes, that could become expensive. I think Zane State Colleges was in the neighborhood of like $60 a credit hour, but still, I hate to see anybody have to spend money they do not have to. Number 5 ties into that idea that I stressed on my very first page, that if a student owes because of a class, they are not paying the college, they are paying or reimbursing us because we are already in the process of paying the college for your son or daughter. I always liked the years past, if you turn to number 6 there, I always liked when I could have my meeting in the auditorium. I felt more personal about it. I felt like there were more questions coming up, but I'm just not permitted to do that. I will say to you as a parent and or a student, if you need to communicate with me, I can communicate with you via telephone, email, and if it's only 2 individuals in my office, if arrangements are made in advance. For example, the student and his or her father, or the student and his or her mother. I do want to emphasize that. But I used to have an evening meeting like this in the auditorium, then I would follow it up with 2 early morning meetings for anybody who wanted to come in with questions, but I just am not permitted to do that. Application deadlines, very important. Zane State College's tentative application deadline is August 1st, 2021. I put the word tentative because that's their decision if they want to back it out a little longer, depending on how things are going. OUL's application deadline. A student is permitted to take a summer class. So if they want to take a summer class, they have to have the OU application in by May 1st. You can take one summer class and you can take it in session 2. And the reason I say it that way is their session 1 summer classes start while we're still in school. And the reason I say one class is because summer school is short and abbreviated and the day is long for one class, so you would really be pressed to try to get more than one in. If you want to start next fall, the application deadline for OU is June 1st. If you want to wait and start in January, the spring semester, the deadline is November 1st. If you turn in for June 1st, you're also good for the spring semester. I have had some students turn in for June 1st thinking they want to start in the fall. Maybe he or she plays a sport or they're in the band, something like that, and then they'll make the decision, I'll just do high school classes in the fall semester and then I'll start up in the spring semester in January. Those are things that we could work out together. I tried to give you a summary there of how to apply to the 2 colleges that we most deal with, Zane State College and OUL. First of all, you cannot apply until you turn the intent form in. Zane State College's application procedure is very easy to follow. You see right there, you go to their website, www.zanestate.edu. At the very top, you'll see CCP. Click onto it. Then you'll see I am applying to the CCP program in the left middle, and you click onto it and fill it out. If you are doing this, you need to let me know because I need to send Zane State College your high school transcript. The high school transcript will verify your GPA and the courses you have completed. I tried to give you a little breakdown of what Zane State looks at for acceptance. They look at the unweighted GPA, 3.0 or higher. If they have to, they'll use the AccuPlacer. And a score of 5 or better is required for any CCP course with Zane State. If you're taking a math course or a course that has math in it, you have to have a 263 or 263 higher. And I say a math course or math in it. For example, we've had students that are able to take Mr. Day's business management course, but they were not strong enough in math to take his accounting course, and there is math in it, and they have to follow the math requirements. Number 2, I tried to give a breakdown of what is required if you're going to do the math program here at the high school. You start out, the first math course you would take is college statistics. If a student has a B or higher in high school algebra 1 or a B or higher in high school algebra 2, student doesn't have to take AccuPlacer if they're meeting that 3.0 requirement. They'll be accepted. If the requirement is sent to them that they need the AccuPlacer test, then of course you will have to take it. College Algebra 1340 is the second semester course that Mrs. Whitaker teaches. The requirement for that is you have completed college statistics, which is her first course. Then if you go to the next page, college pre-calculus and college calculus follows right in sequence. So a student can leave Liberty Union High School with a possibility of 4 college courses, and I believe that would be about 14 semester hours. I'm not entirely sure on it because I didn't write the semester hours down by each class, but I think, for example, calculus is worth 5 credit hours, and then a couple of them are worth 4. That's a pretty good start on your college career without leaving high school. I'm not going to go through number 3. You can read through that, the requirements for the business classes, but I would like to mention number 4. We have Zane State College Psychology at the high school. It's done online with Mr. Williamson, a monitor for the program. What we have the students do for that particular class is, first semester they take a class with him, which is basically high school psychology. It's called Introduction to CCP Psychology, and then the spring semester they take the Zane State College psychology class online in his classroom with him assisting. OUL, their 2021-2022 application is not posted yet. I just emailed my contact on this program and they just haven't posted it yet, but it will be online and you just follow those steps there. The big thing with the OUL or OU application, as I should refer to it, is there's a page called the signature page. The signature page has to come to me for me to sign it. So if you do it online, make sure you have the signature page come to me, or if you're doing the printout copy of the application, then just send the signature page to me. I gave you some things that OU looks at for acceptance. The things they look at if a student took the ACT or the SAT. If they haven't taken the ACT or the SAT and they feel you're a student that should be accepted, they will make arrangements for you to take the AccuPlacer test with them. And that's basically as quick as I can go to try to get the general information to you on College Credit Plus. Some of the things maybe I didn't touch on that is something that you have a question on, so please feel free to send it to Dirk if there are any questions coming in.
Not yet, no.
No questions? Well, that's quicker than I thought on that. I hope I gave you a general or basic information to get started on considering the program. I brought in this because this is a question that always comes up when I have the program in the auditorium. People will say, well, their parents will say, what kind of classes are these students taking? So I thought I would run down some of them. We have students taking OUL World History before 1750, OUL Pre-Calculus, OUL Public Speaking, OUL Music Theory, OUL Elementary Spanish. American Sign Language is a big one that our students take because colleges allow you to use American Sign Language as a foreign language in place of like Spanish, French, or German or something like that.
We have one, can the credits earned in high school follow them to any college besides OU and Zane State?
I can say within the state of Ohio, I will never say 100%, I'll say it this way, 99.9% the credits will transfer to any school in Ohio. If you're going from OUL to any state university, Toledo, Cincinnati, Ohio State, Bowling Green, I will tell you 100% they will transfer. And about 7 years ago, the state legislature said this is crazy that some state universities are quarters and some are semesters and then they don't take each other's hours. So all state universities are on semesters. So anything from a state college is automatically transferable to another college. I say 99.9% because there's always a chance with Zane State College if somebody took a technology class, for example, maybe it wouldn't transfer to any university, but maybe it would transfer to, COTC, Central Ohio Technical College. But I feel very comfortable with the transferability. A few years ago, a young lady completed Capital University in 3 years because of doing this program, second semester of her junior year and all of her senior year. And Capital University took all those hours, so she was able to finish her bachelor's degree in 3 and start right in on her graduate or master's program. Some out-of-state universities have taken these courses. Some are picky about it, because you have to realize taking courses with them is making them money. I mean, that's some of the private colleges are a little picky on taking credits, but like I just mentioned, Capital University, and I've had an experience with Denison University taking credits, and of course Denison has an outstanding academic reputation of being almost a little on the elitist side, and they took credits. So I feel comfortable with you're going to be able to transfer credits. Is that it? Mm-hmm. That's a good question. To tie into that, I just had one of our current juniors in my office a week or so ago. I won't mention names, but this student's goal is to go to COTC, Sector Ohio Technical College. She wants to do the CCP classes, and she asked me about going to COTC, and I said, yes, you could do it, but you have to realize that's a pretty good haul compared to going right down the road to OUL. So I said, let me call COTC for you and find out if you take basic courses like the English, the math, the psychology, the basic courses that all colleges are going to require of you. Let me call down to, or over to, COTC and see what their answer would be. I called COTC and read off the courses that she might be wanting to take at OUL, and they said, no problem, we would take those 100%. I'll ask this as a question out there. Does anybody want to know any additional courses that our students have taken between OUL and Zane State College? Because I don't want to just stand up here and read off names of classes, but if anybody has an interest in any particular types of classes, I would be glad to address that. Students ask me, what should I take? I can't really answer that, but I always tell them this. You're going to need credits in English. You're going to need credits in psychology, no matter what you major in. So those are two very popular courses that our students take. I always tell them taking a speech or communications class, because when you do get to college as a true college student, you're going to have to give a speech or a presentation, so why not learn how to do it in a small group at OUL? So those are the type of classes that our students are taking. You cannot take any phys ed classes. The state of Ohio says we're not going to have tax dollars paying for somebody to take archery or bowling. You can't take fine art classes. We've had students, as I mentioned, music theory, music style. You can't take fine art. The only program you can't take classes in are phys ed classes. Anything? Well, I'll say one last time then, are there any questions that you do want to pass on to Dirk to give me? Otherwise, the presentation's over. I will emphasize, make sure you get the intent form into me if this is of interest, and I will always take your questions at a later date if they come up. It's best to email me first, and then if it's a question where I need to call and talk to you, I'll call you. Or if it's a question where we need to actually sit down, we can make the arrangements. But the emails are better because I'm kind of in and out of the office a lot as far as within the framework of the school. And being the only counselor, calling, you may just go to voicemail, whereas email, I check my emails about every half hour or so. Well, thank you very much. Have a good evening.